Welcome to Growing Your Dental Business, hosted by dental business coach and author Penny Reed. This podcast is the ultimate resource to sharpen your focus and accelerate your results, ultimately leading to more profit at the end of every month. Here's your host, dental business coach Penny Reed.
Welcome to the Growing Your Dental Business podcast. This is Penny Reed. I'm so excited to have our guest, Dr. Howard Farran, on the show. And I also have a copy of his, I don't guess it's brand new anymore, but it's still fairly new, especially if you haven't read it, his book, Uncomplicate Business. So, Howard, welcome.
Oh, welcome, Penny. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's an honor.
Well, I'm glad to have you. And as many of us that have been in dentistry for years can say, you know, Howard, we've learned a lot from you, and thank you for forging ahead and not only setting an example, but continuing to raise the bar for the dental profession and all that you do for dentistry. I'm going to do the same thing for you that you did for me when you interviewed me. I have your book, but I haven't read it yet. How terrible is that? But I have skimmed the table of contents, and boy, it's on my next list of books to read. One of the things that you talked about in the book that really stood out to me, and all good stuff, I've not ever really heard you talk about team selection from the standpoint of not only how to attract the right people, but also how to keep the right people, and then how to invite the right people to go away. So let's start there with the team and your philosophy.
Well, I can tell you're a genius, Penny. Seriously, I've known you for 3 decades, but I met you when you were 12. You know, when a young dentist comes up to me and she tells me that her big stresses are student loans or what type of implant system to buy, you just know they're young and green, because I don't care if you own an NFL football team or a dental office, the only thing that should keep you up at night is HR. It's absolutely the most important thing. It's everything. Being able to attract and retain the best players, it's just everything. And it's when you sell the invisible, dentistry sells the invisible. When you talk to people, and it doesn't matter if you're in the United States or Kathmandu, Nepal, and your air conditioner breaks down and you call out an air conditioner repairman and he says, we can't fix it, Penny, we need a whole new one. The whole planet thinks, I don't believe you. I think you're just trying to make money. I think you're just trying to sell me a new one. I bet if I called my cousin Eddie, he could fix it with duct tape and WD-40. Every time you take your car into the shop and they say, we can't fix your transmission, you need a whole new one. Same thing. So when they go into a dental office and say, well, you need a MOD amalgam, or you need a MOD composite, or you need a root canal, or you have to extract it, and they don't know what you're talking about. You're completely selling the invisible. And this is why dental chains and corporate America, that we have 50 chains that have 35 chains that have 50 or more locations that have about 15% of the market. And we saw this, you and I saw this way back in the 80s when Orthodontic Centers of America, and there was a dozen on NASDAQ, and they were all going to take over dentistry, and every single one of them imploded. And 10 years, they disappear. Now they're all back. And the young people, the millennials, think this is all new. But the old dogs like me, who's 54 and got a grandkid on the ground and one in the oven, we've seen this pitch before. And what they couldn't do is they couldn't connect with their customers. They couldn't even keep their doctors. I mean, these patients were going in there, and every time they went in there, they were seeing a different doctor. And when I go into dental offices, the ones that are crushing it, we're able to attract and retain team members who could connect with people and build trust and build relationships and slow down their employee turnover. They could keep dental assistants and hygienists and the front admin staff for decades, 2 decades, 3 decades. I'll never forget when I was growing up, there was a guy named what was his name? Esther Landsworth, Ethel. I think it was Esther Landworth. He was in Wichita, Kansas. And when I would go there in high school and I'd hang out in his office, one day I got brave enough, I felt close enough to him. I said, why do you have that real old lady up there? I mean, she was like a great grandma. She was in her high 80s. And he said, son, I bought this practice 30 years ago, and she was the office manager. And she knew everybody's name. She knew everybody's mama, everybody's aunt, cousin, whatever. And as she got older and older and older, she never told me she's going to retire. She never told me she's going to quit. I just kept taking more functions away from her. And now she's reduced to just a greeter. She just sits up there. I mean, they literally had her in, just like when you go to law, you know how you go in the witness stand and they have the gate thing. They had her in a gate there because they didn't want her coming over and touching the computer or messing stuff up. And every kid that walked in, the first thing they did is they'd walk up there and they'd say, hi to her. And she'd tell them stories about their mother bringing them in when they were in a car seat. And she could also remember her mother coming in a car seat. So it's all connecting. It's all relationship. Healthcare is a joke because in the United States, not only is this the first year it's going to pass $3 trillion, it's like 17% of GDP. It's just amazingly crazy expensive when you go around to other countries that are as advanced as ours that are doing it for like 12% or less. But you go into every doctor office in Phoenix in this supposedly free enterprise, great system that no one wants taken over by the government. And it's just all white. It's all glass doors. You go in there and you sign in like a cow. The lady opens up the door and hands you a clipboard without even making eye contact. Then she closes it back. And it's like, oh my God, they don't even get it. So the dental offices that are crushing it, I can walk in the dental office and within 60 seconds, you can smell success. You can smell patient retention, patient loyalty, customers coming back, staff having fun. No one's afraid of the doctor. Everybody, team huddles, anybody can communicate. You go into other offices and the dental assistant asks the dentist, well, why are you doing this? And the doctor will say, well, if you want to know, go to dental school. And then they go to continuing education all by themselves. They don't bring their staff, and they think that if they go get all this alphabet soup after their name, they're going to be all that and all great. And then they think equipment's going to solve their deal if they buy some shiny CAD CAM or CBCT or laser. They're just going to be all that, and it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with just all the people skills, everything you learned in kindergarten, everything you learned about why you like to play in the sandbox. And when you can build an environment like that, and that's what leadership is. Leadership is building an environment where everybody feels safe, everybody feels respectful. When the staff asks the doctor a question, he answers them just like it'd be a patient, his own mother, a sister, a cousin, so that when the doctor leaves the room, they turn to the dentist and say, well, why do I have to get a root canal? Why can't he just do a filling? She can totally explain it. They take continuing education together. They take, if they don't have a lot of money, they can take online CE courses. I mean, there's a gazillion of them for under $20. It's just all HR.
Well, it's amazing to me also what you just mentioned there about if they don't have a lot of money, they can do it online. What other million or multi-million dollar businesses don't set time aside for training? Whether you go to CE or not, or you bring a consultant in or not, this practicing 4 days a week and then taking that fifth day off and yet being frustrated because you have areas of, whether it's the dental software or a new piece of technology or how we want the phone answered, we don't make training and the team building aspect a priority in a lot of practices. So Howard, I'm going to switch. Instead of Dr. Farran, I'm going to pretend like for a moment that you're Dr. Phil. Okay, so most of the listeners are likely not about to open their practice. They're probably already in practice, and perhaps some of them don't even like some of the members of their team. Heaven forbid, but it's probably true. So let's say you find yourself already surrounded with the bad news bears dental team. Maybe you've got one or two that you think have some promise. So even if you're not bold enough to clean house, because that might not be the best approach, where would you start if you already had some that were good, some that were average, and some that you knew probably didn't need to be on your team?
Well, I'd be a real doctor about the situation. I mean, when you have a cancerous polyp, they don't go in there and look at it and take pictures and scrape around the edges and throw antibiotics at it. They just go in there and carve it out. And I mean, I can tell you at least 20% of all dental offices have a cancerous, toxic individual in there that just needs fired right now. I mean, the only plan that needs to be done is that person needs to leave immediately. And everybody takes a deep sigh of relief. It builds faith that there is a leader. You go into dental offices, and after the dentist does a root canal, he just goes back in his office and shuts the door, and you got assistants, rolling eyes at the hygienist and contempt and dysfunction all over the place. And it's because they're not involved. When I watch a basketball game, those coaches are walking up and down the side of the floor the entire game. They're totally involved. They're calling timeouts. When I go into offices that are crushing it, when the doctor gets done doing a hygiene exam, if he doesn't have to go anywhere, he'll stand there and he'll walk the patient all the way to the front desk. And then after that person checks out, you have to walk around and smell the factory. I remember one of the endorsements for my book was Swim with the Sharks, Not Eaten Alive by Harvey McKay, who was a big fan of mine. He was one of my teachers at my guest lectures at my MBA program at Arizona State University. And he said, we just made white manila envelopes. I mean, they're just plain Jane. He says, I couldn't manage that, my numbers. I had to go there every day and walk the field. He says, if I walk the assembly line and I walk by every department, the people getting the paper, the people running the machines, I would walk it. He says, I could smell success and I could smell problems. And I was the owner, I was the leader. And when I smelt a problem, just like, hey, what's up? And leaders are the people who are most willing to have the highest number of uncomfortable conversations. I don't want to go in there every day and have everybody ask me how my 4 boys, Eric, Gray, Grant, and Zach are doing, or how my little Taylor Marie granddaughter's doing. I want to go in there and say, hey, Penny, what's keeping you up at night? Where I know we're doing good. I know we're successful. I know all that. I don't need to read the greeting card from grandma or someone who sent cookies. I don't need any of that. Who's upset? What's wrong? What's keeping you up at night? What do we need to do? What should we be working on? Let's have an uncomfortable conversation, and let's be very frank about it and be very direct. And so, if there's any cancer toxic person in your office, it's got to go. And then when you're looking at staff, what we've found over the years that when you take your entire office to the continuing ed, I mean, half the room is all the doctors coming by themselves, saving money, and they're all making like $150,000 a year and under. And then the other side of the room, every row or two is an entire office, and they're all making twice that. Over the years, I mean, I always had a pile of resumes of these girls that would just come by and they'd say, I've met your assistant 3 times at 3 different courses. And oh my God, if you ever have an opening, here's my resume because, my dentist is never going to go for it. He doesn't get it. He lives in a cave. He's not even trying. It's kind of a hopeless situation. Remember when staff quit, they fired the dentist. Dentists on Dental Town always talk about firing a staff. I don't see them ever talking about the patients, staff firing them. Your patients fire you. It's the same thing on Dental Town. Everybody wants to talk about advertising. And when I got out of school, advertising was taboo. And then after a decade, people start saying, well, you should spend 1% to 3% on advertising. And now they're talking, you should spend 5% to 7% on advertising. Well, just do the math. If a hygienist works 40 hours a week and she works 50 weeks a year, she could only clean 1,000 people's teeth for an hour every 25 weeks or twice a year. So if you're getting 25 new patients a month, you should be adding another full-time hygienist every 3 years. And you go to these offices after 10 years, they don't even have a full-time hygienist. They got one hygienist 3 days a week. Then you come back at 20 years. They still got one hygienist 3 days a week. You come back at 30 years, 40 years. I mean, you'll walk into a town of 5,000. The doctor's been there for 40 years. And I say, hey, buddy, what do you need? He goes, I need new patients. You think I should start a Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn account? I'm like, dude, you've gone through every single person in this town. How can you still be talking about new patients? When are you going to go look in the mirror and say, why do my staff fire me and not come back? Why do my patients fire me and not come back? Why do I have 3 ex-wives? Solve those problems. And when you jokingly said, I'm going to start calling you Dr. Frank, I'll call you Dr. Phil. I seriously think every single practice management consultant is an armchair psychologist because all those problems are in the doctor's head. It's not the market. It's not the economy. It's not Obamacare. And this election that everybody's so crazy fired up about, I don't care who wins. An hour and a half after the election, whoever wins, it's going to be the same gridlock. They won't agree on anything. They can't compromise on anything. We don't have a totalitarian dictator that shoots a gun in the air and does 10 things. He's got to get it through Congress and Senate and Supreme Court, and nothing ever gets done. And everybody that's crushing it, like me, during those debates, I'm doing email. I'm working on my business. I'm talking to my staff. I don't even care who wins the election. All your problems are standing in front of you at the mirror. Solve all those problems. And I don't care if Putin is in Ukraine. I don't care what North Korea is doing. I mean, that's just noise. It's complete garbage noise. And you have so many things in front of you that you could be working on, you could be solving. And then another exercise that I've always done is, when Ray Kroc died, the McDonald's didn't blink. The next morning, it was like 28,000 McDonald's got up and made 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, cheese, less onion. I mean, since Sam Walton died, they've been opening up 40 Walmarts a month. And I tell dentists, I say, when you go to bed, you should lay down in that bed and you should pull up the covers like they're closing the casket and saying, okay, I'm not going to bed. I'm dead. What happens to my business tomorrow? Is it just dead? Does it just go under? Because the greatest business in the world, Thomas Watson Jr.'s IBM, survived his death. And so what would be the problem tomorrow? And the problem is they're dentists. They just want to drill, fill, and build. They're not business people. A business person, look at Rick Workman. He owns 1,500 dental offices. He hasn't touched a patient in 20 years. Stephen Thorne owns Pacific Dental Care. He's not even a dentist. Rick Kirscher owns 350 Comfort Dentals. He hadn't touched a patient in 25 years. They spend all their time drilling, filling, and billing and going to all these obtuse courses on occlusion and canine guidance, and now they're always going to solve it. Now if you haven't solved any of your problems in 20 years, you're going to start learning sleep apnea or placing implants or bone grafting when Clear Choice can hire a periodontist or an oral surgeon from the next town over, the next county over, and come in and do all their surgeries for a percentage of collection, and they didn't even go to one course. I mean, while the average dentist is spending $100,000 on a CBCT and $100,000 in implant courses and equipment and implants and all this, the conductor, the businessman, just says, yeah, we're going to start doing implants. I think I'm going to have, I called the next county over, and there's a periodontist who's going to come in one half Friday a month and place all my implants. Yeah, I think sleep apnea is good. Yeah, I found this sleep apnea person who's been crushing in sleep apnea, and he's going to fly in on Southwest Airlines for $200 one day a month and do all my sleep apnea. I mean, be a businessman. Why are your patients not coming back? Don't tell me about advertising. Talk about patient loyalty. Build a dam. Look at that Colorado River. You put a Hoover Dam there, and you can't swim across the lake. But you remove that Hoover Dam, that water's all gone. And that's all I see in corporate. That's all I see in dentistry. I don't see anybody keeping their customers for life. So to think that the threat is corporate dentistry is a joke. It's laughable. Nobody is keeping their customers for life. And the ones that can keep half of them for 4 to 10 years they're all $1 million practices where the doctor's taking home 400.
Well, I think when you talk about the relationship skills, which many dentists don't want to talk about or think about, well, I think more of the female dentists do because they relate more to that part of it. One of the things that I began doing more as a hobby than anything else is I'm a certified Dale Carnegie trainer. And this stuff is like 120 years old. But it hasn't changed. It's about people and connecting with people and learning how to sincerely make other people feel important. And I'd love your thoughts on this, but my thoughts are when you can't attract and keep great team members, it's because you don't know how to make yourself feel good, but you haven't yet mastered the art of empowering other people to feel good about themselves and to grow.
Absolutely. Dale Carnegie is the greatest. I think it should be required. It should just be required reading. I mean, they should go to a Dale Carnegie class before they ever try to present treatment to a patient.
Yeah, it's huge. So tell me about how do you, in case you don't already, how do you begin to trust your employees to do their jobs? I love this.
Well, humans are, you got to start with unconditional love. You got to start with unconditional trust. They have to prove to you that they're not trustworthy. It doesn't matter if it's your spouse, your children, your team. When you talk about training, you go starting at a Fortune 500 company, there might be 1 week of training. Some are 2 weeks. I mean, Thomas Watson Jr. of IBM, all of his salespeople, before they talked to one customer, went through a 6-week training program. And he had the most genius thing in the world where he said, nobody knows computers. And that's the same as dentistry. They sell the invisible. He goes, no one knows a thing about computers. He goes, they just believe what the salesman tells them. So if 70% of all the computer salesmen in the world work for IBM, we will have 70% of the market. And every computer historian says that at the time that Thomas Watson Jr. started his ascent, there was about 7 major companies, and his at least 4 of the other companies had far better, superior technology, but they didn't focus on the sales. So it's all about cultivating a culture. Ryan, can you hand me my 12 thing? Do you know what I'm talking about? I have this little card that's on every room. I carry it in my pocket. I talk to staff about, it's about my core values. Create a fun, positive, and professional environment. And when I say fun, one of the things that doctors do very bad to staff, patients, kids, spouses, is you just make someone feel bad. When you make someone feel bad, they don't part with their money, they don't come to work with a smile, and then they turn around and make their other team members and patients feel bad. I mean, when someone makes you feel good, you should be secreting dopamine and serotonin. When you talk down to someone or you're condescending, they secrete noradrenaline and epinephrine, and they go into fight or flight. And you're trying to sell them a root canal, billet, and crown, and they either want to fly out the front door or they want to fight and punch you in the nose because you're talking down. I can't, Penny, I've told you 10 times you need to floss every day, and you haven't been in for a cleaning, and I mean, you're just not doing what you're supposed to do. And I'm just making you feel bad. And it doesn't matter if it's a staff, it's a patient, it's a family, it's a neighbor. My second core value, be passionate, enthusiastic, and determined to make a difference. Everybody knows. I mean, my oldest sister is a Catholic nun for 35 years. No one's ever paid her a dime. She feels like she's making a difference. And anytime you go into a company and then everybody feels like they're making a difference, that they have passion, they have a purpose. They're just not going slugging out something for $20 an hour. They're actually making a difference. And that's why it's important for dental offices to get involved in Halloween candy buyback programs, water fluoridation, going into the schools, because you're not there saying, hey, we want to set up a drill, fill, and bill factory so doctor can make $1 million and buy a boat. No. I mean, if you come into a city and you practice there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you should have made an impact on their oral health. You should have lowered the DMFT rate through water fluoridation, through children's education, through flossing. I mean, we want to make a difference. We're about servants for oral health, and some dental offices that they have. I mean, I've gone to dental offices where when you pull up, the assistants are smoking at the back door. I mean, my God, can't you smoke on the way to work or on the way home? You really have to smoke in the parking lot. And then here's the killer one, number 3, be humble. Harvard Business Review has done this a gazillion times where they say, what is leadership? And they look at the highest performing companies in the Fortune 500 and the lowest performing, and they look just at the CEO and they say, what is it? Is he tall, dark, handsome, charismatic? What the hell is it? And they can't find any of that stuff. Like, Penny, I'll quiz you. One of the fastest growing companies in my lifetimes, one of the top 5 was Walgreens. I mean, that thing grew 30,000% since we entered dentistry. Name the CEO's name.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. He's
not in the limelight. He's not charismatic. He's not what, Hollywood makes you think that the guy would be, some driving a Corvette with a hot woman. No, they're just humble people that listen to their customers. He listens to his staff. He listens to his pharmacist, and he's an operator. He's a hands-on. He creates trust. Tell me, pharmacist, what your problems are. Let's work on this. You got to be humble. There's so many dental offices where staff will ask me a question in the seminar, and I'll say, well, why didn't you ask your dentist that? Well, he'd get mad. I'm like, he'd get mad? He'd get mad at a question? I mean, where's the humility? Embrace and drive innovation. I love new toys. I like lasers and CAD cams and all that if it makes you enthusiastic. If you're buying one of those machines to make a bunch of money, trust me, this is not going to work. It'll make you a lot of money if it embraces innovation and it fires up the staff and everybody's motivated. Everybody thinks it's cool. Then your patients are in there and they feel the motivation. They think you guys are all cool. And that comes with, it's all about the new patient experience. It's not about your alphabet soup behind your name. So, like, let's say I'll talk 2 doctors have a CEREC machine. one doctor, the whole staff's fired up. They've all gone to these courses. And when new patients come in, they go give them a tour of the office and show them their new machine and tell them, we used to take impressions that made you gag and you wouldn't get the crown for 2 weeks. And now we bought this. And they're feeling the enthusiasm, the passion, the contagion. That's what works. I mean, I tell people, when they say they want to buy something, I say, what do you want to buy it? And they think, well, I think it'll be good for business. I'm like, no. I mean, I buy it if it's going to make you run 20 red lights on the way to work because you can't wait to get to your playground. I remember with my boys, if I threw them in the sandbox and there was just sand, they'd be out of thing in 5 minutes. But if I put them in the bathtub or the sandbox with 5 Tonka trucks and G.I. Joes and toys and balls and whatever, they'd play there all day. Follow the golden rule. Treat others like you would want to be treated. Mistakes will be made. Be accepting and accountable and move forward. When you make people feel bad for making a mistake, they quit making decisions. So every time someone makes a big old mistake in my office, I'll always start laughing. And I'll say, well, considering that I did blah, 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 I mean, I'll try to think of the dumbest, worst thing I ever did. And it makes their mistake look so small because, I've made some very big mistakes. I've never stopped learning. I've always noticed. That's why I think your podcasts are so cool, is because in my 30-year experience, all the dentists who jumped out of the gate and were consuming 100 hours of CE a year, a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades later, they were completely on top of Mount Kilimanjaro. But the people who would take the minimum requirement and they wouldn't take their staff. So never stop learning. Learning the information, it gets you fired up. It gets you everywhere. Next one, be honest and respectful. Integrity is everything. That's why you report the cash. That's why if you cement a crown with an open margin and your hygienist catches it, well, you have to replace it under warranty, because how could you tell the next patient, well, you have an open margin, but since I didn't do it, we need to bill $1,000 and do a crown. Well, if you placed a crown with an open margin, I mean, Walmart has a no questions asked return policy, and it's 1% of sales. They don't even want to hear the story. It's kind of like when we were little, divorce was a big deal and private investigators. And finally, the courts figured out we don't even care why you're getting a divorce. It's a no-fault divorce. It's a no-fault warranty. I made you a denture. I think it's awesome. You hate it. Your old one fits better. You want your money back. I'm giving it to you because I don't want you living a block away telling everybody for the rest of your life that you got the worst denture on earth at Howard's Place, about Today's Dental by Safeway. I want you, and so many times in the last 30 years when I just said, look, here's your, I give you your money back. I can send you across the street to my best friend and dentist, Tom Mattern. He'll do it, and then he'll send me the bill. You can go wherever you want. I'll pay that guy to redo it. What do you want to do? And almost every single time, they just reach out their hand, they shake my hand and say, well, I just like the way that you handled this. And what's so funny is so many times they always have it redone with the associate who's standing right next to you because they trust the facility. They say, Penny, you tried the denture, it didn't work, and you work with Amy, and I just want Amy to try and see if she can make one better. Balance life and work and be fully present in both. I see so many dental offices where the front desk, I shouldn't say front desk, they shouldn't be named after a piece of furniture, or the chair side dental assistant named after a chair. The admin staff, 5 times a day, they got to go tell dentist that his useless wife Muffy's on the phone calling for the 5th time while they're running an hour late. And then when that dental assistant gets a call from her kid in school, from the school nurse, something's wrong, and then he goes and posts on Dental Town, what do you do when your dental assistant takes personal phone calls? How do you stop that? It's like, dude, you get 5 a day from your stay-at-home wife. So, balance life and work for you, your team, your staff. One of the reasons that my team has stayed with me a long time, because some of them have even told me over the years, the best thing about working for you. And I'm like, what? And it's like, you didn't make me be here at 8 o'clock because by just coming in at 8:15, I was able to drop off my kid every morning on the way to school. Or, you let me start at 6 and then I could leave at 3:30 and pick my kid up after school or whatever. But, you only live once. We're all going to be lowered into the same size grave. Balance life and work. Strive to make everyone feel safe, valued, and employment. People don't bring you bad news if you're going to bite them. So when they bring you bad news, you got to make them feel better than when they bring you a Starbucks chocolate mocha. I mean, you got to make them feel good. Penny, thank you so much for telling me that. I'm just born to solve problems, and you brought me this issue, and thank you for bringing this to me. What do you think I should do? If you were me, what would you do? Okay, so so be remarkably helpful as a CEO. I mean, you want to be like, you're in a healthy relationship. When you get a problem, the first person you take it to is your best friend. And if you get a problem and the first person you don't want to hear about it is your spouse or your hygienist or your office manager or your brother or kid, I mean, that's not a healthy relationship. So you got to be remarkable, helpful. When they bring you a problem, it's like, oh yeah, well, what can we do? What would you do if you were me? What do you think is the best? Be remarkable, helpful, make them feel safe. And then last one, number 12, create opportunities that make our customers feel special. And for me, that's the new patient experience. That's patient loyalty. I mean, there's so many companies where I could go drop 50 grand and they do a 1-year contract of direct mail, banner ads, email blast, all this stuff like that. And that's the worst drug that healthcare has been on for 100 years, going all the way back to Orthodontic Centers of America. Yeah, we'll just go into big towns, lots of marketing, burn and churn everyone until none of our doctors will work here and none of our patients come back. Forget all that advertising stuff. Go to patient loyalty. I wish you'd drop your 5% advertising budget and then go to a 5% patient loyalty budget and say, what do we have to do? Like I'll say, well, you should get nitrous oxide for the people that are afraid. Well, you can't bill Delta for that, but hey, you wouldn't want a patient to just feel relaxed. Or what about a wand for a painless injection, which basically a wand, you're going to pay $3,000 for a machine that teaches you to go slow. Just start giving your shots slow. What does it take to make these people, if they had to wait in the waiting room, did you go out there and give them a $5 Starbucks card or 2 tickets to a movie? Did the doctor walk out there when we were running late? My staff will tell me, oh, the next lady, she's livid. So that I'll put down my deal. We know we're finishing up whatever we're doing. And I'll walk out there and I'll walk right up there and say, Penny, I am so sorry. I know I was supposed to see you 20 minutes ago, but I just, oh my God, I had an infection. It wouldn't stop. It was bleeding. It was crazy back there. And I know that if I was working on you, you'd want me to do it right. And I'm just so sorry, but here's a $5 Starbucks card. Here's 2 tickets to a movie. And usually they reject it. Like, oh, no. You don't have to do anything. No. But it's just being remarkable, helpful and getting involved. But, you just got to be a killer connector with your staff. And you got to, and anybody who says customers are always right is a complete idiot. Your staff is always right. And you treat your staff with total respect, make them feel safe, follow my 12 core values at Today's Dental. And then they'll treat your patients like that. Then hopefully, I got my Jan. I still got my first dental assistant at 29 years. And there's people that only come in there. There's probably at least 500 people that only come to my office because of her. And so create long-term, safe, healthy, functional relationships with your team. They'll return the favor to your customers. And in fact, my friend Bill Rossi was telling me that that's the number one way to get patient reviews is whenever your patient owns a business. Well, if he owns a pizza parlor, eat there next time and write a review for that pizza guy. Then go tell the owner who's your patient, hey, I just wrote you an online review. I think you're amazing. And then he's going to turn around and write your dental office a review.
And I couldn't agree more. I mean, clients will come to me and these are great services. They'll say, hey, I'm thinking about signing up with this social media company or doing that. And so we'll look at, okay, what's your budget and what's your cash flow and how many of these internal marketing type things are we doing to make our patients feel good, or thank you notes, or even sending little flower arrangements to them and a coffee cup, things that will make them feel appreciated and get noticed. And if they're not doing those things, I'll say that other service is awesome. But if you've got to pick between the two, you need to do the face-to-face visibility, showing the sincere appreciation. If that's all you've got in your budget, and it will build up and allow you to do what I would call the icing on the cake. I couldn't agree more. I love that you talk about burnout because not that I know everything, because I realize every day how much I still have to learn. Whereas when I started this in my 20s, I thought I knew, in my mid 20s, I thought I knew everything. So every day I wake up and I'm like, wow, I wonder what I'm going to learn today, because things change so much. Over the course of my career as a coach, I have had many clients that were either already burned out or on the verge of burnout when we first started working together. You know, it's like that's sort of what prompted them to pick up the phone and call me to say, I know I can't do this the way that I've been doing it anymore. So I would love to hear from your perspective the signs of burnout and, you know, the source and what you would recommend that doctors do to begin to make the turnaround.
It's my belief after 54 laps around the sun that burnout first has to do with just not taking care of your instrument. You know, they wake up in the morning, they skip breakfast, they drink a bunch of coffee. At lunch, they eat McDonald's. Then after work, they go to happy hour and they down a couple drinks and beers and eat fried cheese balls and then go watch late night TV and don't get enough sleep. And I've just seen so many dentists in my life. Like I have two women that are, I'm a 3-time Ironman. I have two women. One's done it. Anyway, they've done so many Ironmans and won so many races. And every day at 5 o'clock, one of them two is knocking on my door. And when I see these dentists that were burned out, they weren't taking care of themselves. They weren't getting enough sleep. They were staying up late at night, eating crap and watching TV, and then waking up tired and then trying to correct with stimulants like caffeine and tea and caffeine and chocolate and all this crap. And if you get up and you just work out, you know, it's every day. It's volume. An hour workout's better than 30 minutes. An hour and a half workout's better than an hour. And then lastly, it's intensity. So when you sit there and you say, okay, at 5 o'clock, that's what a personal trainer is good, because you might wake up at 5 o'clock and you say, you know what, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm just going to walk for 30 minutes. But a personal trainer is like, okay, see that mailbox up there? Okay, at that mailbox, we're going to run all the way to the street sign. And then they mix it up. They make it fun. Hills, this, bike, swim, run, yoga, weights, whatever. But you just got to start taking care of yourself. I also noticed that when you do that, a hard workout for an hour, you almost drink the entire daily recommended amount of water. You know, you can sometimes go through 4 water bottles in an hour and a half. Whereas a lot of these dentists, they drink coffee all day, they drink tea, and then they come home and drink alcohol. They're on diuretics all day long. They're dehydrated. And then when you know you got to get up at 5 o'clock, you don't want to sit there and watch the evening baloney news on CNN and Fox News and all this crappy politics stuff. You're like, dude, I got to get up at 5 o'clock. I don't even want to know that's going to happen. I'm going to bed right now. I'm calling it a night. So you're getting your sleep, you're getting your water, you're getting your exercise. You're trying to pick a banana over a donut. You're trying to pick a tangerine over a Snickers. And, you know, I'm not perfect in any of that stuff, but at least I'm regular. I mean, work out daily, try hard. And I think when you do that, now your tools and engage, now your minds. And the other thing I like about the workout, like say you're going to go a jog for an hour. You're sitting there thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do today? I mean, I don't listen to music when I'm out there because I don't want to get hit by a car. So you're thinking, okay, if I had to get one thing done today, what would it be? What keeps me up at night? What worries me? And then you're running, you feel energetic, and then you want to go devour a problem. And I think a lot of dentists, I've seen so many dentists that were massive substance abusers, massively sick, massively ill, and then as soon as they got rid of some toxic thing in their in their life, maybe it was their spouse, maybe it was their hygienist, maybe they finally told their brother, you're gone, you're just nothing but a toxic mess to me, I can't do it anymore. They get the strength to get rid of the toxicity in their life. I mean, the world has 7,300,000,000 people, and every day 300,000 new baby Homo sapiens are born and over 100,000 die. Well, you're not going to 100,000 funerals tomorrow. You don't even know these. Most people, you go up to them and say, who died today? And they go, who? I'm like, 100,000 humans on Earth. So the point I'm trying to make is if 100,000 people die, and that didn't even make one impact on your life, why are you tolerating all this toxic baloney from maybe it's a mom, a sister, a spouse, a kid, or whatever? I mean, just because this kid came out of you doesn't mean you can't fire them. How many dentists I know that basically ruined their own life just because they couldn't pull the plug on their marriage and get a divorce? Remember that real famous guy in California? Was it Tom Lacey? Was that guy who had a pregnant wife and he killed her and took her out and then threw her in the ocean. Yeah, dude, it's called a divorce. You don't have to kill her and drive 3 hours to the ocean and row out in the middle of I mean, just gosh darn, 100,000 people die every day. You can fire patients. I mean, I remember one of the funniest patients I ever had to fire was one of my best friends. I loved him to death. I still love him. He's an amazing guy, but god dang, he's a CEO. He's a driver. He does 10 million a year, and he drove my staff insane. He was loose with profanity, and and one day, after, I was looking at a schedule, I go, oh, my buddy John comes in today. And everybody rolled their eyes and just said, oh, my God, I hate it. And I realized, oh, my God, he's seriously a cloud over the day. And they're all like almost nervous that he's going to be here in an hour and a half. And I said, do you guys wish that he never came here again? And everybody said, oh, my God, they give anything if he's over. I just called him up. I said, hey, I love you. I love you. There's no one I'd rather watch a football game and drink beer with than you. But you know what? You're fired from here. My staff cannot stand you. They don't get you. I get you. They don't get you. But you got to fire patients. You got to fire staff. You got to fire family and friends. Clean up the toxicity. You're burned out because you're getting too much stress. Where's it coming from? Is it internal? Is it disease? Do you need to see a psychologist, psychiatrist? Is it internal because you live off Funyuns and Twinkies and you just eat shit all day long? I mean, you're standing there feeding yourself on coffee and French vanilla cream, wondering why you don't have any energy. So is it disease internally? Is it not taking care of yourself internally? And if those two things are squared away, you'll have the strength. Now go fight the toxic shit in your life. So many of my dentist friends, I tell them I don't like to talk about religion, sex, violence, or politics because you can go out with 4 of the loveliest dentists in the world. And you're talking about so much fun stuff. And then they'll switch to those 4 categories, and it's not fun anymore. They're getting animated. They're getting loud. Their heart's beating. Sometimes they'll slap. And it's like, dude, I don't care. It's not worth it to me. I don't like you when you're talking about those things. I mean, there's so many things to talk about. Why would we let Trump and Hillary and the church that your mama made you go to every Sunday, what does that have to do with 4 guys at a bar watching the Arizona Cardinals? Let's just get rid of the toxicity. Let's clean up our life. Let's take care of ourselves so the energy to fight stress, duress, trauma, toxicity. Clean it up, and then I want you to go to work, and I want you to play. I want you to play in a sandbox all day long. When my kids were playing in the bathtub, they didn't ask me every 15 minutes what time it was. When they were out there playing in the backyard, they didn't say, hey, Dad, go see what time it is. We need a clock out here in the sandbox. No, they're playing like a great movie. My only judge on a great movie is that I lost all concept of time. I was totally into the movie, and when the credits rolled up, I was almost surprised. But if I'm sitting there watching a movie and I'm like pulling out my iPhone, wondering, like trying to guesstimate how much longer this damn thing's gonna last, it ain't working. I used to tell everybody I hated Broadway plays because I lectured so much in New York. I went to so many Broadway plays, and you're just like sitting there counting the minutes and saying, okay, I'll sneak out of here intermission. I wonder if it'll upset the dentist. I wonder how much this ticket costs. Would it be nice if I, or should I just stay? And then I went and saw that play. What was it, Ryan? Wicked? Oh, then I went and saw Wicked. And when it was over, I jumped to my chair. I mean, that's what going to work should be. And if that means that you need a laser or a CAD cam or placing implants or doing sleep apnea or doing Invisalign, do it. But if you're sitting there saying, I would rather be punched in the nose than do a molar root canal, but I have to do molar endo because it's $1,000 in insurance pays. No. That's what the 4,000 endodontists are for. Only do what makes you happy. Only do what makes you run a red light on the way to work. And then when you go to work, I want you sitting there and thinking, oh my God, I can't wait to see my assistant Christina. Oh my God, I wonder what Yoni did this weekend. I want you to go to work just like you'd be meeting some dentist at a bar thinking, oh, I can't wait to see my team. But if you're sitting there saying, oh, my God, I hope she got up on the wrong side of the bed today. She's so moody. She's either on or off. When she's off, she's so bad, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, there's 7 billion people. If you got some moody assistant who's good some days, bad some days, you know what? My odds are that you can fire that person out of 7 billion people, find a better one. I mean, Jack Welch was the most brutal. He fired the bottom 10% producers on his sales team every year. So, Penny, you could have had the most amazing year, but you were in the bottom 9.999%, and he was fired because Jack said, you know what? You're the bottom 10%. odds are if I fired you 100 of them and replaced them, 90% of them wouldn't be in the bottom 10%. I mean, he was brutal, and he took GE's market value from about $1 billion to about $180 billion in his 10-year decade. I mean, the guy was crazy insane. So just get healthy and make decisions and make them like a surgeon. Don't play around with a tumor. Just excise the damn thing, move on. Don't worry about the past. Clean it up, play, have fun. And if you're having half as much fun as I have, you're going to be a successful dentist.
I love it. And I love how you put it, that if you take care of yourself and you feel good, if you're in shape, physically, emotionally, then you can make those decisions to stick by your standards. And I do agree with you 100%. When you're in violation of your own standards, because you're putting up with that person at work or that relationship or that bad habit, it just keeps you in that vicious cycle of the burnout. So I think, thank you, Howard, for being such an example and having so much enthusiasm. I mean, that is the key. I think that's one reason why people are so drawn to you, is you remind those of us in dentistry, I believe especially the dentist, even though I'm not one, that it can be fun and it should be fun. The dental economy may have changed, but your ability to enjoy what you do should not be affected by that. It comes from inside. And I appreciate your example and also the time that you spent with me today.
It was an honor and a privilege, Penny. I've been your biggest fan for 3 decades, and I love what you do for my homies too.
Thank you so much, Howard.
Thanks for listening to Growing Your Dental Business podcast. For more information, transcripts, and resources, please visit us at growingyourdentalbusiness.com.